I could feel his eyes on me the moment I walked into that kitchen. The way Cody looked at me wasn't subtle. It was hungry, deliberate, like he'd been waiting years for this exact moment. My husband Travis was outside with the other men, talking about crops and weather, completely oblivious to the electricity crackling between his cousin and me. I wasn't wearing anything under my dress. It was a simple summer dress, light and flowing, perfect for the Kansas heat. But the way Cody's gaze lingered made me hyper-aware of every inch of fabric against my skin. Before we dive deeper, do me a quick favor, like this story and hit subscribe. It helps more than you know, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Trust me on this one. The family reunion had been Travis's idea. 3 days at his uncle's farm, reconnecting with relatives we hadn't seen in years. I'd agreed because I thought it would be relaxing, peaceful even. I hadn't counted on Cody. He'd changed since we last met. Broader shoulders, more confident, with this quiet intensity that made my pulse quicken every time he entered a room. "Madison, right?" he'd said when we first arrived, though we both knew he remembered my name perfectly. His hand lingered just a moment too long when we shook hands. "You look..." He paused, his eyes traveling slowly down my body before meeting mine again. "Different." That was this morning. Now, as evening settled over the farm, I found myself alone with him in the kitchen while the others gathered on the porch. The conversation had started innocently enough. How was work? Did I like living in the city? The usual family reunion small talk. But there was an undercurrent, a tension that made every casual comment feel loaded with meaning. "You seem restless," Cody observed, leaning against the counter. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms that I definitely shouldn't have been noticing. "It's the heat," I replied, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. I moved to the window, pretending to look out at the fields, but really just needing to put some distance between us. The dress clung to my skin, and I could feel his attention like a physical touch. "Travis always was lucky," he said quietly, moving closer. "Some guys just get everything handed to them." I turned to face him, my back against the window frame. "What's that supposed to mean?" His smile was slow, knowing. "I think you know exactly what it means." The air between us crackled with unspoken possibility. This was dangerous territory, and we both knew it. But there was something intoxicating about standing on that edge, about the way he looked at me like I was something he'd been denied too long. "Cody," I started, but I didn't know how to finish that sentence. "Don't. Stop. Keep going. Relax," he murmured, stepping closer until I could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating from his body. "I'm not going to do anything you don't want me to do." But that was the problem, wasn't it? I did want him to. The realization hit me like a bolt of lightning. Standing there in that kitchen, with my husband just yards away, I wanted this man to touch me, to make me feel things I hadn't felt in longer than I cared to admit. His hand came up to rest on the window frame beside my head, not quite caging me in but close enough that I could feel the implications. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. "Tell me to walk away right now." I opened my mouth to say exactly that, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I found myself tilting my head slightly, exposing the curve of my neck. It was a small movement, barely noticeable to anyone else, but to him, it was an invitation. His lips brushed against my throat, feather light, testing. When I didn't pull away, he grew bolder, pressing soft kisses along my collarbone. My hands came up to rest on his chest, ostensibly to push him away, but instead I found myself gripping his shirt, holding him closer. "We can't," I breathed, even as my body betrayed every word. "Then why aren't you stopping me?" he asked against my skin. Because I didn't want to stop him. Because Travis and I had been going through the motions for months, our connection growing, distant and routine. Because Cody made me feel alive in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. The sound of laughter from the porch broke through our bubble of tension. Voices growing closer, footsteps on the back steps. We sprang apart just as Travis pushed through the screen door, his face flushed from beer and the evening heat. "There you are," he said, sliding his arm around my waist with casual possession. "We were wondering where you two disappeared to." "Just helping Madison find the good glasses," Cody said smoothly, though his eyes never left mine. "Family crystal, you know how it is." Travis nodded absently, already turning toward the refrigerator. "Uncle Bill wants to show everyone the new barn before it gets too dark. You coming?" "Wouldn't miss it," Cody replied, but his tone suggested he had other plans entirely. The barn tour was torture. Walking through the dim space, surrounded by family members pointing out structural improvements and discussing livestock, all while Cody stayed close enough that our hands brushed when we walked, our bodies aligned when we stopped to listen. Travis was oblivious, caught up in conversation with his uncle, but I was hyper-aware of every moment, every stolen glance, every deliberate touch. When the group began to head back toward the house, Cody caught my arm gently. "Stay," he said quietly. "Just for a minute." I should have said no. Should have followed my husband back to the safety of the crowded porch. Instead, I found myself nodding, watching the others disappear into the gathering dusk, while Cody and I remained alone in the barn. The space felt intimate now. Golden light from the single bulb casting long shadows across the hay bales and farm equipment. Cody moved closer, his hand coming up to cup my face with surprising gentleness. I've been thinking about this all day, he admitted, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. Hell, I've been thinking about it for years. Cody, this is crazy. If Travis doesn't appreciate what he has, he interrupted, his other hand settling on my waist. When was the last time he looked at you the way I'm looking at you right now? The question hit too close to home. When was the last time Travis had really seen me, really wanted me with the kind of intensity that made my knees weak? Too long. Far too long. This is wrong, I whispered, but I didn't pull away when he leaned closer. Then why does it feel so right? He asked, his lips barely an inch from mine. I couldn't answer that. Couldn't explain why being here with him felt more natural than anything had in months. Instead, I closed the distance between us, pressing my lips to his in a kiss that was soft at first, tentative, then grew hungry as he responded. His hands moved to frame my face, holding me as if I were something precious, something he'd been waiting his whole life to touch. I melted into him, my body coming alive under his attention. This was different from the perfunctory kisses Travis and I shared. This was fire and need and pure, undiluted want. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Come with me, he said quietly. I knew what he was asking, knew that if I said yes, there would be no going back. But the alternative, returning to the house, pretending nothing had happened, going back to my routine life of quiet dissatisfaction, felt impossible now. I nodded. He led me deeper into the barn, to a space behind the old tractor where hay bales created a natural alcove. The air smelled of summer grass and honest work, earthy and real. When he turned to face me, his hands went to the straps of my dress, sliding them slowly down my shoulders. Beautiful, he murmured as the fabric pooled at my feet, leaving me exposed in the golden light. His hands skimmed over my skin with reverent appreciation, like he was memorizing every curve, every line. I reached for his shirt, my fingers trembling slightly as I worked the buttons. When his chest was bare, I pressed my palms against the solid warmth of him, feeling his heart racing beneath my touch. He was stronger than Travis, more defined, and the differences thrilled me in ways I hadn't expected. He lowered me onto the soft hay, his movements careful, controlled. When his lips found mine again, it was with a passion that consumed everything else. His hands explored my body with skill and patience, finding spots that made me gasp, made me arch against him in need. Tell me what you want, he whispered against my throat, his voice rough with desire. You, I breathed. I want you. The rest happened with dreamlike intensity. His touch, his heat, the way he moved against me with perfect rhythm. Every sensation was heightened, every moment stretched taut with pleasure and forbidden excitement. I lost myself completely, gave myself over to feelings I'd been denying for too long. Afterward, we lay tangled together in the hay, my head on. His chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back. The reality of what we'd done should have hit me like a sledgehammer, but instead I felt peaceful, satisfied in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. We should go back, I said eventually, though I made no move to leave his arms. I know, he replied, pressing a kiss to my hair, but not yet. That's when we heard the footsteps, heavy boots on the barn floor, moving with purpose toward our hidden corner. I tensed, panic flooding through me as I recognized the gate. Travis. Cody's arms tightened around me protectively, but there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The footsteps stopped just outside our alcove, and then Travis stepped into view. He looked at us for a long moment, taking in our tangled bodies, our scattered clothes, the obvious truth of what had happened. I waited for the explosion, for the anger and accusations. Instead, something else flickered in his eyes, something that looked almost like relief. So this is where you disappeared. Too, he said quietly, his voice strangely calm. I scrambled to cover myself, mortification burning through me. Travis, I can explain. Can you? He asked, moving closer. Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty clear. Cody sat up, positioning himself between Travis and me. If you want to be angry with someone, be angry with me. This was my fault. Travis studied his cousin for a moment, then shook his head. No, it wasn't. He looked at me then, his expression softer than I'd expected. We've been drifting apart for months, Madison. I felt it too. The confession hung in the air between us. I stared at my husband, trying to process what he was saying, what he meant. I've been thinking, Travis continued, his voice growing stronger. Maybe we need something different. Maybe we both do. The implication in his words sent a shiver through me. When his eyes moved between Cody and me, I began to understand what he was suggesting. Travis. I started, but he held up a hand. I saw how he looked at you today, how you looked at him. He moved closer, kneeling beside us. And honestly, it turned me on more than anything has in months. The air in the barn grew thick with new possibilities. When Travis reached out to touch my face, his fingers gentle and familiar, I didn't pull away. When Cody's hand found my shoulder, creating a connection between all three of us, I felt something shift inside me. Are you sure? I whispered, looking between them. Travis nodded. I want to watch. I want to see you feel good. And maybe... He glanced at Cody. Maybe we can figure out something that works for all of us. What followed was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Having both of them focus on me, touch me, worship my body with different techniques and rhythms was overwhelming in the best possible way. Travis knew my body intimately, knew exactly how to make me respond, while Cody brought a fresh excitement, a different energy that complemented rather than competed. They worked together, one holding me while the other explored, taking turns, bringing me to heights I'd never reached before. When I finally shattered between them, crying out with abandon, I felt more connected to both of them than I ever had to either one alone. Later, much later, we made our way back to the house separately, careful not to draw attention. The family was settling in for the night, most of the older relatives already gone to bed. We slipped inside quietly, maintaining the facade of normalcy even as everything between us had fundamentally changed. That night, lying in bed beside Travis, I replayed every moment in vivid detail. When his hand found mine in the darkness, squeezing gently, I knew he was thinking about it too. No regrets, he whispered. None, I replied honestly. The next morning brought the usual chaos of family. Departure, packing cars, exchanging contact information, promises to stay in touch. Cody and I were careful to maintain appropriate distance, but I caught him watching me when he thought no one was looking. As we loaded our car for the drive home, he approached under the pretense of saying goodbye. His hug lasted just a moment, longer than it should have, his lips brushing my ear as he whispered, "This doesn't have to be the end." I pulled back to look at him, seeing promise in his eyes. Travis appeared beside us, shaking his cousin's hand with genuine warmth. "We should do this again sometime," Travis said, and I knew he wasn't just talking about family reunions. "Definitely," Cody agreed. "I'll be in the city next month for work. Maybe we can grab dinner." The drive home was quiet, comfortable in a way it hadn't been in months. Travis and I talked more honestly than we had in ages, acknowledging what had happened and what it might mean for our future. By the time we pulled into our driveway, we'd reached an understanding that felt both thrilling and terrifying. A week later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Still thinking about the barn. When can I see you again?" I stared at the message for a long time before showing it to Travis. His response surprised me. "What do you want to do?" he asked, and for the first time in months, I knew exactly what I wanted. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where temptation became too strong to resist? Where one moment changed everything you thought you knew about yourself? I'm curious what you would have done in that barn. Would you have walked away, or would you have given in to the heat of the moment? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more stories that push boundaries and explore the complexity of desire. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.